Thank you.
Let's turn our attention to schools now. As you know, Metro Nashville Public Schools accounts for nearly 40% of the city's budget every year. This year, the district will get more than $1.2 billion. Everyone talks about wanting to improve schools, but in reality, the mayor has little control over how the schools are run. Would you support eliminating our elected school board and moving towards an appointed or hybrid model, similar to what you'd find in places like New York or Chicago? Or does the status quo work as it is? Let's start with Sharon Hurt.
I would continue to allow the people to elect those school board representatives that we have, because I think it's very important for them to have some engagement in what happens in our school system. What I do think we need to do is hold some accountability to the things that it is that they are doing. I do plan to have an office of accountability, efficiency, and enforcement. We have great rules, we have great policies and legislations, but they are not enforced. And I think that if we're able to have some type of community oversight in order for us to ensure that the schools are working properly, focusing on what's actually keeping our kids from learning, and focus on that. I believe we're going to have some reading specialists to come in and ensure that our kids are reading. In their formative years, they learn to read. After that, they read to learn. If we are failing them from learning to read, then of course they're not going to be able to read to learn, and that puts them on a pipeline to prison. And what we want to do is put them on a pipeline to prosperity. I think we've got to restore hope and prosperity with every family. We've got to make sure that they have the resources that they need, whether it's parenting classes, whether it's assistance. We have one-on-one reading literacy options available for them, but I definitely think that it's got to be a community effort.
Thank you. Jeff Yarbrough.
So, no. As a parent of 2 children in Metro Nashville Public Schools, I want there to be a school board member who's elected by citizens and who is focused every single day on our public schools. I just do. That does not mean that I don't think the mayor must be the leader on education in the city, because I believe the mayor must be the leader of education in the city and accountable for the outcomes and results, and I gladly take on that mantle. I think the first thing the mayor has to do, you can't control everything, but you can make sure that resources are not the obstacle to our success as a city. The mayor, that does not mean writing a blank check, but it does mean making sure that there's accountability in place and also resources to make sure that the schools can do what is appropriate for children. And I think the mayor, in these times when teachers are facing declines in pay, difficulty housing, and just a genuine lack of respect across the board, the mayor needs to be a full partner in recruiting. I also think to be a real education mayor, you have to see as education as not just K-12, but prenatal to post-secondary. We need a complete overhaul in the way we do early childhood education, child care, pre-K here, so that more kids are starting ready to learn, and work on the back end to make sure that more are getting the college degrees and certificates to be successful in later life.
Thank you. Heidi Campbell.
Amen on early childhood education. That's so important. We live in an incredibly regressive state, and let's not conflate fiscal stability with fiscal responsibility. We do not fully fund education in this state. And even though Nashville spends over half of its budget on education, we do not fully fund education in this city, and we have incredible inequity. We are a red line city, so you have a school like Glendale in my district that does wonderfully, and parents put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that school. And then you have schools in other districts where you have moms who are working 2 jobs, single moms, and they are barely getting by, and they can't afford to put money into those schools. We have to, as a city, focus on triaging that inequity, because we all do better when we all do better. And we have haves and have-nots in this city when it comes to schools. One of the ways that we can do this in a school that's not going to be fully funding education anytime soon is by hiring community school coordinators. That's a person whose day job at a school is to build support systems around the school through nonprofits, churches, businesses, and make sure that whatever the specific needs of that school are being met. And meantime, continue to push to get full funding for our public education from the state.
Just very quickly, Heidi Gamble, do you support eliminating the school board, or would you?
No, I think the school board does a great job, and I absolutely don't support getting rid of the school board.
Thank you. Jim Gingrich.
So I'm a product of public schools, as are my kids. My parents came from difficult circumstances, but they were able to build a better life than what their parents had, and I was very fortunate and able to build a better life than what my parents had. That should be the dream of every kid in Nashville, but for way too many kids, that is just that, a dream. If you are born poor in our city, you are more likely to remain poor than in 80% of the large cities in the United States. That is a statistic that we should not be proud of and that we should not accept. There is nothing more important than investing in our kids, and that does start with education. But I think none of us are satisfied with the outcomes that we currently have. I actually reject the notion that the mayor cannot operate within the current system and have a significant impact on how our school system is performing. I'm going to do three things, and it's going to start with me taking accountability, but I'm going to work with the superintendent to build a comprehensive 5-year plan to improve outcomes in our schools. When we get agreement on that, I will fund the plan, and I'm also going to hold the school board and the superintendent and myself accountable for delivering on that plan and getting to better outcomes for our kids.
Thank you. Vivian Wilhoit?
No, I do not support having school board members appointed. I believe that we should keep it as it is. The people knows best in reference to who they want to represent their district, and that's how we need to continue. But I must say this, as a mayor, I know that what my colleague just stated in reference to that he rejects the notion that fully funding the school board is all that we can do, and I agree with him. I agree with him that we need to do more. As a 2-term council member, that is what I was told the entire time I served as council. Oh, we can't tell the school board what to do. Now, if you're giving more than half of your budget to the school system, we should be able to play a role. So I do believe accountability is so very important. We need to know when we direct for certain things to be done because we want to deal with the inequities that are happening in our school system, we need to come back the next year and find out, is that what has been done? There was an old saying, there was a saying that I learned from a presidential election that I was watching for a convention. It says, Jesse Jackson said he doesn't love his children equally, he loved them accordingly. So when it comes to our school system, we can't love them equally. We must give the schools that are failing the tools that they need if it means giving them more than what another school has had. So
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Freddie O'Connell.
David, I think if I'm choosing which elected bodies that offer a threat to public education in Nashville, I'd probably choose the state legislature, not the elected school board. From vouchers to state-authorized charter schools to a funding formula that's going to disadvantage Nashville over the long term, the state is really attacking the project of public education in Nashville. But I want to push back a little on the idea that the mayor doesn't have anything to do with public policy in education. Mayor Dean led an important teacher recruitment initiative. Mayor Berry led a critically important early childhood literacy initiative. Mayor Cooper led both a new project that has our teachers being the best paid in the state of Tennessee, as well as making sure that teachers got paid family leave. It is very possible for mayors to impact education in this city, and I would say the 2 projects that I would want to tackle as mayor are one that affected us directly. When we started in public schools at Aiken, where Matt and I both went, and where our 2 daughters have gone, I basically lost a job because I found out the hard way that I didn't know the secret handshake to the aftercare program, and I had to leave the office every day at 3 p.m. Since I've learned how many families couldn't choose public schools in Nashville because they didn't have an aftercare option. We need to make it easier for working families by expanding aftercare seats at metro schools. We also have the earliest high school start times in the country, and this is not a badge of honor. High schools in Nashville start at 7 a.m. This is bad for student performance and mental health, and we'll fix it.
Thank you very much. Alice Rowley?
I I mean, education is the single most important issue in terms of moving families from the ability to get these maximum wage jobs that are coming to our city. And right now, our current organization is failing too many families. We are currently 95th out of all 95 counties on our high school preparedness, and I think that this is a concern for families about their choices being honored. This school board has the ability in the next 2 years to make a really critical decision. We as a city will either become Detroit or we will embrace choice and become Miami-Dade, an urban school system that spends less per student in a very expensive city than we do here in Nashville, that took their school system from F-rated to A-rated by embracing the choice of parents. Right now, the top 37 schools in our district are choice schools, either magnet or charter. And if this school board continues to deny parents the ability to choose the best child and the best school for their child, I think that we will continue to see state intervention. Parents had to go and beg the state to reopen our schools when every other school system in the region was reopened. And so I would like our school board to become accountable to parents and families, and if they can do that, I think they can keep their role.
Thank you very much. Matt Wilshire?
And I don't want Nashville to be either Miami or Detroit, so I hope there's a third option, that Nashville can just be the place in America with the best performing public school system in the country. And I believe that we can. And to do that, I will work with the school board, which should continue to be elected, so that parents have a voice in who are representing them and how the education system works. So I just released a plan, as I mentioned, on public education. It was put together with input from a couple of great former public school board members. And we have wonderful ideas, but it's going to take collective action. And as your mayor, I will be accountable. If you can't work with the school board to convince them and the administration and the MMPS that you have great ideas, then either they aren't great ideas or you're not a very good salesperson. But I think there are great things that we can do. Now, I will say that the funding numbers are not exactly as they've been laid out here. Over the last 10 years, in fact, the Metro Nashville public schools budget has gone from being 42% of our budget down to 37%. It's not over 50%, it's 37% in the current budget, even with increases in teacher pay. Now, we need to make sure we are pursuing innovative approaches to make Nashville's schools the best performing in the country. And as your mayor, I will work with the school board to make that happen and come back to report to you in 4 years.
Our next question, as Nashville